But let's talk about the beer company. Bud Light, one of the most popular beers in the United States, hires a new marketing executive. The new marketing executive just talks gobbledygook and garbage that basically, straight white heterosexual men are terrible, and despite the fact they're the reason we're the number one beer, we've got to start to pivot. And yet again, this Dylan Mulvaney, who apparently is the only trans person that they can endorse, ends up becoming the face of the brand. Surprise, surprise. The people who've been insulted by the marketing department turn around and say, screw you.
I don't know what Bud Light was thinking. They had a marketing director for 43 years who understood who their customer base was and marketed appropriately to them. Then they hire some woke Harvard Wharton grad who's only 39 years old, who outlined her whole plan 3 days before it was unveiled with Dylan Mulvaney, talking about how we had to move on from these frat boy customers who she finds disgusting, but who pay her bills. I don't know if she ran it by the senior executives because they haven't said anything. And I predict this woman gets fired, and she gets fired publicly if Bud Light wants to save its brand. There have been articles now, Fox Business and others, checking in with beer distributors, checking in with pub owners, checking in with sports leagues. People are dumping out their Bud Light like it's the Tea Party all over again into the Boston River. They're disgusted, not just with the fact that this brand is aligned with a trans woman who's co-opting all these sponsorships and making a mockery of womanhood, but with the brand's disdain for what is obviously their customer base, which is working class guys. White, black, doesn't matter. Working class guys are the ones who drink Bud Light. You go to the sporting events, you go to an NFL football game, that's the beer in the stands. And there used to be almost a manliness associated with choosing it. It was something like a cool guy would do. Now, what you want is this Dylan Mulvaney who prances around dressed like Eloise from the books, like a child girl, like a little girl. That's your new ambassador? Of course, Kid Rock, the singer, and others are going to be dumping their beer and shooting their beer cans up. So they've completely misjudged their audience, and they appear to hate them. So yeah, there's a massive backlash. So far, there hasn't been to Oil of Olay, the skincare brand that caters to older women who are developing wrinkles. Why would you use Dylan is 28, a 28-year-old man. That's what Dylan is, a biological, to market your female product that is for older women looking to fight wrinkles. It's a pander. It's nothing more than a pander. And then there's Nike. The one thing a biological man doesn't typically have is breasts. Dylan is no exception. She's been hired by Nike to model their sports bras. There's, of all things, Paul, not their sneakers, not their headbands, their sports bras. This is such a middle finger to actual women. You can't find an actual woman with actual breasts to model and market your sports bras, Nike. What is this?
Now, the shootings in Tennessee, the only part of that story that matters is that the 3 kids died, adults died as well. We all know that the person who was the shooter had absolute hate in their heart and left a manifesto behind about why they did it. But of course, like we talked about last week, straight off to the guns. Then there was the side issue of the grandstanding, some of them fakes, that were carrying on in the Tennessee Parliament. But Kamala Harris, Vice President, she decides to jump on a plane. She goes to Tennessee. Does she talk to the families of the people who are dead? No. Instead, she says, you can come and watch me speak, while she pretends this is all a black thing.
The absolute gall of this woman, the insensitivity, the hubris. She saw an opportunity on Friday morning to exploit this situation, including the deaths of 3 9-year-olds, and she used it. Finally, she could drive her poll numbers up with her base. She got on a plane last minute. She flew down to Tennessee. Did she ring the doorbells of the 6 grieving families? No. She went to give a speech at a historically black college and said, if you want to come to me, grieving families, you can. You're welcome to come listen to me rant about how these 2 black lawmakers and this 1 white woman lawmaker weren't able to hijack the legislative debate over what should be done in the wake of the shootings. They were given their say. They were. They just weren't winning on the reforms that they wanted. And that wasn't good enough for them. So two of them took out a bullhorn, hijacked the proceedings, led the protesters in the balcony as if they were not lawmakers themselves, as if they were also protesters. Hello, you're not. And disrupted the proceedings. And they got bounced out as lawmakers. They got expelled as lawmakers, which I have absolutely no problem with. The left is melted down. They wanted to expel Josh Hawley from the U.S. Senate because he gave a thumbs up to some of the January 6th protesters. This, the bullhorn leading the absolutely not. Nothing should have happened to them. Why? Because skin color, because they were fighting to take guns. That's a different story. So she goes down there, decides to support the two rebel-rousing ejected lawmakers, who, by the way, we all know are going to get right back in because that's the way the process works. One's already back in. But she wouldn't miss her moment to exploit the shooting of children and blame it on the guns, to exploit the race angle because the two black lawmakers got ejected and the one white woman didn't. By the way, that's because she lost by one vote getting ejected, and because she argued her behavior was better than that of the two black men. She's the one who said, don't treat me like them. I was better than they were. And by one vote, she convinced people. Now she's out there saying it's about racism. So Kamala Harris says, yes, 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 queen, and goes down there to exploit all of this with not a thought for the grieving victims.